Thank you so much, Sarah Jean. Welcome, everyone. So yes, writing an abstract for a conference, that's what we're going to look at today. And many students, even graduate students, sometimes are a little wary of submitting something for a conference, feeling that maybe they need to do more work, they need to have more experience. But really the way to get experience and the way to build your confidence as an academic is to start submitting. And we are very fortunate at Athabasca University to have the GSRC conference, which is open to all disciplines and provides a very safe and comfortable space for you to kind of start to get into those conference waters with your work. So let's have a look at all of the different aspects to writing an abstract. Okay, so first and foremost, the right side, support. When you are a graduate student, sometimes you can feel, especially with online learning, a little bit isolated in your own work. So I just wanted to remind everyone, most of you I'm sure already know, that the right side is available to both graduates and undergraduates at Athabasca University. It is a service that is provided that offers support to students. That can be support with planning, a presentation or a paper. In terms of a conference, we can help you with preparing your abstract, thinking about your presentation that you will build on for the conference itself. You can even practice your presentation and we can give you feedback on it. So we're very we offer a multitude of types of support to you as academic writers. Okay, so if you wish, you can book an appointment with us, like I said, to discuss some aspects of, planning for a piece of work. You can get written feedback. You can also meet with us virtually to discuss the feedback. And we also offer this conference abstract mini course. It takes about an hour to complete. And it has interactive activities that, again, will help you feel more confident as you move towards creating your abstract for submission. And there's just a note in the chat there. Oh, Sarah Jean's on it. All right. So if you want to learn more about RightSite, we do have web pages on the Athabasca University website, and you are also welcome to email us at rightsite@athabascau.ca. All right, so what are we going to cover today? Well, let's have a look. We want to think about journal abstracts versus conference abstracts. For both types of, for both submissions, you are always invited to submit an abstract summary of what your work will be about. But there are important differences between the two. Okay. So we're going to look at that. We're also going to go on to the conference webpage and we're going to analyze the call for papers. What exactly is this conference looking for from its potential presenters? We're going to then look at the abstract itself. How do you plan for your abstract? How do you draft it? And how do you polish it up in that editing process? They're generally very short. I believe the word count for this conference is 250 words, but that doesn't mean that you don't want to give it as much attention as you might give to some other form of writing for your academic work. And then finally, we are going to look at some successful abstracts that have been submitted in the past to this conference, just to give you an idea of what a successful abstract means to the organizers of the conference. All right, so journals versus conference abstracts. So of course, you've all read many articles, journal articles throughout your career as students, both undergraduate and graduate. And you may even have submitted a proposal to a journal for publication. So in terms of content, what you would submit to either a journal or a conference, the content will remain pretty much the same. Right. The big difference will be, if we think about content, you are going to be you're going to be thinking about the journal's criteria, what they're looking for, versus the conference, what they're looking for. So you're going to maybe skew your content slightly to meet the expectations of each format, right? Each type of publication production, right? So the timing is going to be a little bit different as well. So for journal abstracts, you will probably have written a paper already, and now you want to submit it to a larger readership. With a conference, you may be working on something, but you're not quite ready. You haven't quite finished it. So when you submit an abstract, you're summarizing the work that still is in production, right? It may seem counterintuitive to submit to present on something you may not have completed, or you're still in the middle of doing the research for it. But by submitting an abstract to the conference where you summarize where you're eventually going to get to, it can be a little bit of a motivator for you to really focus on that paper and get it done in time for the conference itself. What else do we need to think about here when we are looking at the difference between journal versus conference abstracts? Audience and purpose. Now, when you submit to a journal, you are submitting for their readership. The journal will have a particular perspective, a particular discipline, maybe something that it's focused on for a particular issue or a year. And so they're thinking about your abstract in terms of, does it really communicate more to their readership? And is it advancing the overall field or discipline in terms of knowledge, right? For the conference, you are trying to persuade the conference organizers that you have something to add that is relevant, that will be of interest to them, in terms of what the conference requirements, what its theme is, but also in terms of its audience, who is going to be attending that conference. Okay. So let's look at the content in a little bit more detail. As I said before, you are effectively summarizing the key points of your research, or your, the findings of your research, whatever it may be, but you're looking at the highlights, the main points of the work, and that would be in both instances, journal or conference, right? Now, the other thing that you want to do in your abstract for both types of platforms is you want to be able to show where your research fits within that larger landscape of research in your discipline. So what sort of a unique contribution are you making to your chosen field? How are you moving knowledge building forward in your field because of your research? Okay, so you would be speaking a little bit generally, giving that context for your research landscape and where your work fits in. Now, the journal, you're going to be reviewing their requirements. What is the journal about? If the journal, to give you a silly example, if your journal is concerned with desserts, and all of your work is about savory dishes, maybe that's not the journal for you, right? I'm just giving you a very silly example. Also with the conference, it will have particular requirements as well. So the conference that we're going to look at in a little bit more detail today, it's looking at research at Athabasca, right? Together in research, how the university is trying to bridge gaps between itself as an institution and then different communities and also disciplines within the university and beyond. So if your work is not really speaking to any of that, then maybe this is not the right conference. Although the conference we're talking about is pretty broad-based, so I really feel like there's a place for everybody within it, right? Now, another thing you can do with the content for your abstract, the conference abstract, that you would not do for a journal is that you can focus on a very particular part of your research. So in your abstract, you might say, I want to give an overview of the purpose of my research and the methodology, for example, but I'm going to present on the findings. My presentation, which would be shorter than maybe delivering a paper at the conference, my presentation will focus on the findings. There might even be some kind of activity or a how-to aspect to the presentation that could be very exciting for the conference organizers and their attendees, right? So you wouldn't obviously have that when it comes to a journal abstract. Okay, so just to review again, so the content, you're summarizing and paraphrasing your work. You're not going into lots of details. You are just highlighting the key points. So it's really an exercise in concision and focus, right? Great skills to learn. Even if you never submit the abstract, practicing how to write one is a wonderful skill, especially if you have to, maybe you're taking a course or where you have to submit short format papers after very intensive research, maybe of quite a significant body of work. So these are great skills to learn. Again, like I said, providing those highlights of your work, the key things, what's really going to hook the organizers and the attendees. What do they really want to know about? Situating your work within the larger field of your discipline. You don't need to cite the sources because it's for a start, it's way too short. Journal abstracts, addressing the journal's criteria. Conference, the details of CFP is just call for papers. And again, like I said, you can focus on a presentation. You may not deliver a paper. You may have an asynchronous presentation. Okay, so the timing, and I touched on this briefly earlier. With a journal, you'll have written your paper. You may have submitted it to a course or to a supervisor, say it's like a final project paper, and your supervisor has come back and said, this is really worthy of publication. Why don't you consider, submitting a proposal to a journal to these particular journals to see if they would be interested in publishing this as an article. So your paper would be done, and then you would go to your journal or journals, right? Sometimes journals will make their own call for papers. They're looking for something very specific. Maybe they have a special issue, for example, coming out. And so you could possibly tailor a paper you've already written to meet the journal call for papers, or you could think about writing something new, right? In that case, you would not maybe have a complete work that you would be submitting an abstract on behalf of. With conference abstracts, can be written before the paper is completely finished, or even started in some instances. You would do that because the conference is an opportunity. It's something to work towards, right? Audience and purpose. So we have a little different, again, between the two, journal and conference. Journal abstracts. Why do we have abstracts? If you have a readership, if a journal has a readership and it's looking for specific research, the abstract can be a quick way for them to find your paper, because with these abstracts, and I'm sure you've written some of these for papers yourselves, you have that list of keywords, right? And of course, too, what if you're in a busy profession? What if you're in healthcare? And you need to stay up to date with what is happening in your field, because things can change sometimes quite rapidly in the field of health sciences research. You may not have time to read the entire article, but you want to know if maybe there has been progress made on the development of a particular drug as a new study come out, right? So you would read the abstract to gain that information without needing to read the entire article, right? Conference abstracts, it's an exercise in persuasive writing. Hey, organizers of this conference, I have something that ties very tightly into your overall theme, and I really would like to present it because I think it will appeal to both faculty and students. So say the projected audience of the conference. The organizers of a conference will often have different themes or sub-themes, right? Especially with a large conference like this one will be, they need to be able to pull different types of presentations together, right? To make it easier for the attendees to navigate the conference as well. So your conference abstract helps the organizers understand where to place your specific presentation, your paper. And also, that abstract is going to be then presented to the potential attendees, and as they look through maybe a long list of conference presentations, some may be conflicting with others depending on time slots. If your abstract is compelling to them and speaks to an area that they want to learn more about, then that will persuade them to attend your presentation over someone else's presentation. All good so far, everyone? It's always a little strange talking at people. So if you do ever want to raise your hand, or if you need me to repeat something, or you didn't quite understand what I said, please feel free. All right.
Well, so we do have a couple questions. Do you want to take them now, or do you want to wait for a question slide?
Why don't we, let me just see here. Sorry. Oh, sorry, my computer's just decided to freeze suddenly. Yes, let me go through the next couple of slides and then let's take a break for those questions. Is that okay, everybody? So conference abstracts. Let's have a look. So just a review. The content, right? Pretty much the same as the journals. For the conference, you're summarizing your work, paraphrasing it, making sure you meet the requirements for the conference's call for papers. And again, you could focus on your presentation, right? You may not present a full paper, you might, or everything about your research work. You may focus, say, on the findings, maybe on the types of questions that interviewees were asked as part of your research process, etc. The timing will often be written, this abstract will often be written before the paper or the research is completed, right? Which is fine. Audience, you're meeting the needs of multiple audiences. The organizers first and foremost. You want to appeal to them that they will accept your abstract and give you a slot as a presenter within the conference. And then once you have that, obviously you're using it to pull in an audience, right? In this case, it could be faculty as well as peers, right? Students, maybe graduate students, either masters, PhDs, postdocs, whatever. Purpose, of course, of the conference abstract, you're persuading the organizers that your work will add to their conference, is relevant to the conference, and is also moving things forward in terms of your discipline and the research generally, and allows them to categorize, understand where to place you within the larger conference. Okay, so before we go to the call for papers, perhaps this is a good place to take some of those questions. And if I can't answer them, Sarah Jean, I hope you will help me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can tag team. Thanks, Emily. It's been very enlightening so far. So one question is from Kendra. Would you take an old paper and improve on it based on content that you've taken since writing the paper?
Ooh, well, I will look to your expertise more than mine. I would generally say you could build on an old paper, but then you would want to make sure that you are not plagiarizing yourself. So you would want to rework it in terms of the conference, but where you are maybe citing content from the old paper, you need to make sure that you are strictly citing yourself so as to avoid plagiarism. Right. Sarah Jean, maybe you can say more that's a little bit more detailed about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that that's a good point. I didn't think of that. It would kind of maybe depend on your purpose. If it's just for the conference, you're probably okay to update it and so on. You wouldn't be able to use it for another piece of coursework, let's say, like update a paper and then submit it in a different course or something like that, because that's why there's the the idea about the self-plagiarism is you can't get credit for it twice, right? But definitely, you can reflect on things you've learned since and update it for the conference. Okay, and then our other question, I'll give also my thought about this, and then you can maybe confirm, Emily. Some of you may recognize me as the former Right Site coordinator, so of course I have an opinion. So was asked if the Right Site would give support for research assistants. My thought is possibly, depending on capacity. The Right Site has at times supported faculty and so on, and alumni. So there is a possibility there. What do you think, Emily?
Oh, I love that question. As soon as I saw it coming up in the chat, I really think that yes. I mean, obviously, I cannot speak for Right Site. I just work there, but I'm not in charge. And we do have there are limitations in terms of capacity, but I really think it would be wonderful to be able to work with research assistants, because then it helps us understand where research is going, which we can feed back in to our work with our student body, right? Another thing on that is, I believe, and I'm going to forget the university, but there is one university in the US and they have a writing center, but their writing center does not cater to students at all. It is focused solely on faculty. And there's this wonderful, it's very lengthy, but it's a very animated presentation. I'll try to find it. I just can't think of the name of it's a well-known university. It's just not coming to my mind right at the moment. But that's what they focus on. And they have very, very good reasons for why they give writing support to faculty rather than to students. So something it's well worth thinking about.
Yeah, and I would say, please email Emily, and then she can let you know if she has capacity and is able to help you with your questions or some feedback there. And then
was
another.
oh, sorry, I
Sorry,
just
go
wanted
ahead.
to ask which area he works in.
Yes, we're curious. What kind of
Computer
research
science.
assistance?
Very
Okay.
interesting. Very thank you so much. Thank you. Perhaps we shall meet again, right? And do some work together. And is
That would
that
be
it for
great.
questions, Sarah Jean, or any
Just
other
a
questions?
point I already answered in the chat. And Caroline has a question maybe we'll get to on the next round. But Maria did ask if undergrads can submit an abstract for the GSRC, and yes, absolutely you can. Choose your best work, choose your most interesting work, and write that abstract. Go to Emily for some feedback and support, and get that in before September 1st, the abstract deadline. And we would love to see you there, for sure. Please do. So take it away, Emily.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look at the call for papers for the conference. So what I would like to do is I am just going to stop sharing momentarily so that I can pull up the conference website. So just bear with me 1 second. Oops.
Judy, do you want to unmute and ask your question while Emily is pulling that up?
Sure. Thank you very much. I've gone to a couple conferences and it went well, but one of the things I've noticed is that there's different restrictions on the length of an abstract. So what are your thoughts on having one that's 250 or 500 words? What are your thoughts on having various versions of the abstracts depending on the conference?
I I can answer, and then I'm sure Sarah Jean will have more to say because she has more experience in this area. But really, you want to meet the requirements of each specific conference. So if they're asking for a 500-word abstract, give them a 500-word abstract. If they're asking for 250 words, then you would have to tailor your abstract to meet that word requirement. Sarah Jean, did you have anything to add to that?
I agree. Yeah. Unfortunately, it can just be that kind of annoying restriction sometimes. You want to make sure you fall within it. I mean, of course, some reviewers will be a little bit more forgiving if it's, you know, a sentence over or something. But they've probably inundated usually with abstracts, and so that's why they've got the length restrictions on it. So you kind of got to make that elevator pitch. So again, I would just recommend working with Emily and getting her feedback, Emily or another writing specialist, getting their feedback on how you can like pack the punch in that small space.
Yeah. It's a really fun exercise actually to take something quite large and then see if you can pare it down. So I give the analogy yesterday when I was working with a student to a rock face. Okay, you are mountaineering, you have the rock face, and you want to share the entire rock face because it's so exciting. You've studied it, you have all kinds of reasons, like you've got a context, you've got maybe a theoretical framework you're working within, and you're asked to summarize all of that in 250 words. So you've got to think of it as, where do I put in my, I can't think of the name now because I haven't done mountaineering in like 30 plus years, but you know, when you put in your pins, I just can't think of the word right now. So you're going to have to really think about, you're just focused on that path, maybe up to a particular ledge, right? And that's how you need to think about condensing and paring down the work that you are going to present ultimately, but what can you give as the core details? And it really is a fun exercise if you can get past the sense that, but I have so much to say and there's a deficit here, I can't express all of it. It can actually be a fun activity, and it really is a great skill to learn, because if you think about your academic work in general, you are immersed in so much research, you are thinking in so many different ways, you are making connections that are new and unique, but maybe you're working on something like women's education globally, and you would like to take that research, you got into it because you want to affect change. Well, you can't expect the people who are going to be responsible or helping to make change happen ultimately, they're not going to be immersed in the same way. They may not have done 10 years of PhD work. So the skill is to be able to take all of that and make it more succinct, so as then to get the main message across, so that the people who only are receptive to that little nugget of information can do something with it. So it is an important skill that ultimately will serve your research as well as the enormous body of work you are also creating. And Judy had her hand up.
Yeah, go ahead and respond, Judy.
Sure.
Just wanted to jump in there and say it's a gold nugget.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Yes, it is a gold nugget, you know. I often find when you're first in academics, it can feel like it's such a restriction, and it can feel like such a barrier to have to, do things in such a short format way. But yes, if you can see it as that golden nugget, that it is serving this bigger purpose of connecting back into the world in general, then you can do it. You can find ways to do it, and we're here to help you to do that, right? So if everybody's okay, I'll move on to the conference itself. So here's the title, Graduate Student Research Conference 2026. And there's the title, Together in Research. Now we can see right away on our homepage here when the when the conference is happening, October 23rd to 25th, so a 2-day conference, and where it's virtual, as you would expect from an online university like Athabasca, and you can also attend in person, which is kind of a fun opportunity. I've always wanted to visit the campus and I haven't yet, but that's a nice opportunity to do so, right? And maybe to meet some of your peers as well as faculty in person. Now, what else can we see here? What do we want? What do we want to figure out? Well, let's go, of course, we're talking about abstracts. Let's go to call for abstracts and see what we can see. So again, the title, Together in Research. Now, it tells us a little bit here in paragraph 1, who runs the conference. So it's the Athabasca University Graduate Students Association and the Faculty of Graduate Studies. That makes complete sense that they would be working in partnership, inviting graduate and undergraduate students, and 2024 to 25 alumni. So if you have been to the conference, perhaps you might think of submitting again, to submit abstracts and posters for the 2026 Graduate Student Research Conference. Takes place in person in Athabasca, Alberta, October 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So going over 3 days, actually, sorry. All right, so let's figure out a little bit about the what. We know the where, we know the when. Now let's look at the purpose of the conference and who their audience is. So it's a multidisciplinary academic research forum. So the focus is on research and it's across all disciplines. It is bringing together graduate students and alumni, right? So people who have graduated, but they're coming back, right? They're invited to come back to present. Where are they with their research now? Maybe they're working, they're applying their research in a particular field, right? Staff at the university and faculty, right? From all disciplines. So it's very broad, right? So you're getting a sense of who's going to be there. In addition to facilitating research links between graduate students and alumni, because often you're working in an area that is of great interest to people already working in the field, right? They may want to know more. They may be able to call on your research to further their work, or you can see the potential of your research to affect something in the world beyond your degree at the university. So what does it offer the opportunity to do? It's showcasing student research, right? So it's a beautiful platform to celebrate the diversity and the depth of research excellence among graduate as well as undergraduates at the university. It's also to develop and gain research presentation experience in a supportive peer environment. You're among your peers. Everyone wants you to succeed. It is a very positive space. If you've never presented at a conference, this is a good forum to do so. Okay, the ideal setting for thesis students to test themselves and prepare for their public thesis defense, right? So you get an audience, you get some, real-time feedback, and high-profile national and international research conferences. So start here where it's safe, where it's contained, where you're with your peers. People are, looking for your success, rooting for your success before you go into maybe the unknown beyond with other conferences. All right, now then we come to the theme, Together in Research, reflecting on 15 years of community growth and research excellence, right? So it says here, the theme is celebrating how far Athabasca has come and looking forward to where it's going as one research community. So the university has this overarching understanding of where all of the research, no matter what discipline, where it is going to take both the university and its understanding of how it wants to engage with the larger world, right? So a great place to go to just to get a little bit more insight into Athabasca University's vision for its research is here. This is the Athabasca Strategic Research Plan Summary, right? And it's really talking about the university's commitment to not just having research happen in this kind of ivory tower bubble, okay, but making it meaningful for real people's lives in real communities, right? Which is why then, if you look at the priority areas of research excellence, the themes are here: environmental, societal, dynamics of sustainability. disruptive pedagogies, right? Really questioning how education is happening, right? In terms of, are we addressing, are we creating an environment where education is happening that actually contributes to the world beyond any kind of educational institution? Society, culture, health and well-being, right? Very important. You can go and read all of these in detail yourselves. Digital futures, right? We know that all you hear at the moment is AI. Well, what is this, right? As well as all of the other aspects of digital change, technological change that we're experiencing in our world. Okay, so when you look at these themes, that can help you understand, does my research fit in here? And you can see how broad research at Athabasca is, right? So let's just see, what else did I want to say about that? You would look then for keywords that you could add to your abstract, right? To make it more persuasive to the organizers when they're considering whether or not to accept your abstract or not. So let's look at this final paragraph, right? It's reinforcing that, yes, that submissions from all disciplines are encouraged and accepted. So when you think about that, that is a reminder when you're writing your abstract, as well as thinking about your presentation, your paper, to make sure you can speak to as broad an audience as possible. So you're avoiding the jargon, you're avoiding very discipline-specific terms, or if you cannot avoid them, you are explaining them, right? Imagining your reader is interested in your area of expertise, but doesn't have the same immersive knowledge that you have, right? True to tradition. Okay, and again here, you don't have to have all of your work completed. It can be in progress, right? New graduate students who have not started their own research are also encouraged to attend to gain experience, right? So they're emphasizing the learning potential here through this conference. Now, where to next? So wide audience, now the different types of formats that are welcomed at this conference. So you will see that you have paper presentations. So obviously you will be possibly presenting in person, but also virtually, digitally. We are now in an age when we can do that. Back when conferences started, people were presenting written work in paper, right? So that's why you have that. And then poster presentations, they would be shorter, whereas you might spend 15 minutes presenting a paper. A poster presentation is distilling your research maybe into one slide, stroke poster, and you would be speaking to something very specific within your research work, normally about 5 minutes of a presentation for a poster. Okay, and we'll come back and we'll look at these in more detail. But what I wanted to do here is, if we go down to formats, you can see it's a summary again of the different types of formats that are available. So you could be presenting a paper, you could be presenting a poster, but let's think about, what are the different types of papers or posters. It could be a literature review, a term paper, right? It could be primary research. You might also have a video or a media project, right? They're open to accepting those as well, or program project initiatives. So perhaps you're doing a research project in your community. What is the support for seniors in rural areas in Southern Ontario, for example, right? They're open to having those as well. Okay. Just one moment. And then you can see there's a nice incentive here for submitting, right? A nice cash incentive, which I don't know about you, but if you're a student, money can sometimes be a little tight. So it's nice to get a little bit of a cash incentive to submit and contribute to the conference. $500, $250, $150, and additional awards and draw prizes provided at the event. All right. So let's go back up a little bit, because I want to go back in detail to some of these submissions. So abstract submission instructions. We want to pay very particular attention to this. So following the usual conventions of your discipline, right? Some abstracts can be organized with headings, so you're welcome to do that. Others would be a paragraph, right? Right, 1 to 2 sentences, short paragraph, maybe half a page, right? You can always ask a supervisor to guide you, right? They will have experience with submitting abstracts within their discipline. Now, we have an abstract submission form that we'll look to in a moment, but you're going to have to tell them, is it an in-person paper, for example? Is it going to be virtual? Note that you would have 20 minutes for the paper presentation, 15 minutes to present, and then 5 minutes for questions and answers. An author section, excuse the typo here, biography, right? Written in the third person, brief, relevant, informative, right? Maximum 75 words each. So note that there are these different things that you probably want to prepare in a Word document or a Google document ahead of time before you go to submit on the website itself. Biographies can be a little tricky to write sometimes, thinking about yourself in the third person. 75 words doesn't seem like a lot, so what details do you include? What do you exclude? If we read here the sample biography, Jennifer, graduate, is in her final year in the Master of Health Disciplines program. She is a health advisor for the government of Tahiti. Her area of research is health services use and the older adult. Her previous position was teaching massage therapy at a community college. The flexibility of online education has enabled her to continue working, spend time with her family, and study from a remote location. So here we learn who Jennifer is as a student, right? Her area of expertise, her discipline. She also works, as many graduate students do. What is her focus in her research? And how has she, what is her past trajectory been in relation to her current research? Well, obviously this is her teaching massage therapy, how she got into this bigger question of health in relation to older adults. What she likes about online education, right? So maybe her presentation might address some aspect of that. And we learned a little bit more about her. She has a family, and we know that she's in Tahiti, and she's also working, from this remote location, right? And she's in under 69 words. We can help with writing, with you in writing your biography if you need. Okay, so the next thing you want to think about is your content, okay? Are you going to submit an abstract on a literature review? Or a term paper that you've written. Here you can have the following details. This is everything that they're looking for, the conference organizers, that is. The title, rationale, background, purpose, the type of literature review, results and implications. You'll see the same with primary research abstracts and with video media project or program and project initiatives. You can see that they have particular criteria, 5 here, 6 here, and there's an order. You can use these to kind of organize your abstract as well as your final presentation. Okay, so very, very useful to look at this in detail. Okay, you want to indicate if your project is in progress, right? If you're still working on it, if you're still in the middle of conducting the research, right? And then maximum here, Judy, I think, or someone had talked about the number of words. Here it's 250 words for this abstract, okay? And they have little tips here as well. You might also do a poster presentation, and you can see it is, there's in-person. I think that should be an in-person paper, in-person poster, 5 minutes, and you want one poster board, or it could be one slide, right? Since we're in this digital world. Again, the same with the biography, and the content section remains the same as well. Okay, now let's just go back up to see when our abstracts are due. You can see here the abstract submission system opens on June 22nd, so people are already possibly submitting abstracts. Your closing date, you must have your abstract submitted by September 1st, 2026. If you go into here about important dates, that will also give you more dates about the conference. Now, do note as well, if you are planning to present, right, to submit an abstract, you also need to register for the conference. If you're presenting, I believe it's free. Otherwise, I think it's a $75 registration fee, okay? But you must register in order to also submit your abstract. Is that correct? Sarah Jean, you've got your hand up. Did I miss something?
I'm not 100%. I believe that presenters do have to pay a fee.
Right.
If anyone else who is here knows the answer to that, you could pop that in the chat. But we do also have bursaries that I wanted to mention that you can apply for to cover your fee and travel costs if you decide to go in person to Athabasca, which of course we would highly encourage. So I did put the link to the bursaries or the funding opportunities earlier on in the chat, but I will add them once again. Oh, and Vicky confirmed that presenters do need to pay the registration fee. If you get that in by July 20th, you will get the early bird rate, which is lower. So that's another thing to consider. And yes, there are places to stay in Athabasca. I believe there's also information about that on the conference website. I'm going to check into that and I'll add to the chat. Thanks, Vicky.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks everybody. Judy also had a question about submitting a poster but attending remotely. I believe you can do that. Sarah Jean, did you have an answer to that one?
Yes, absolutely. You can create your one-slide poster and you will then present it remotely. Yeah, you can do that. You'll have, I think, a certain time where you will be, where you can answer questions from audience members who look at your virtual poster in the virtual poster hall.
Thanks, Sarah Jean. So let's go into filling out the abstract submission form, okay? When you click on this, it will bring you to this page and you can see call for abstracts. Again, all that information we just talked about, again, it's presented here in a shorter format. So all of the key information that you need. And look, isn't this lovely? Most submissions will be accepted. So they're really encouraging you to think about submitting an abstract and then presenting at the conference, right? Now, what we need to do is we need to start the proposal. So when you hit start proposal, you've done all of the work, you know what your format's going to be, you've got your abstract prepared, it's 250 words, you've written your biography, you may have reached out to RightSide for support, you're now ready to submit, and you know if it's a paper or a poster, for example. You're going to hit start proposal and it will bring you to this page and it's asking you to, sorry, it's not showing because I started filling it in last night so I could open it up, but it'll have this one here, where is it? You can see the little icon up at the top, perhaps. It's called Whoa, I think it's called, where you would put in your details, right? So I've put in my first name, last name, email address. If I have an affiliation, it would be, say, Athabasca University. Or if I'm working there, maybe I'm applying as staff, what would my job title be? My biography, you can see the red asterisk, you must include this information. Do you have your own website? You may have developed one for your work or for your studies. LinkedIn profile, right? They want to be able to know you as a professional, profile picture, and then your submission details. So what is your abstract title? Here you would include your abstract. Note this is characters, not words. You still stay within the 250 word count. And then 3 to 5 keywords that summarize your topic, just as you would do when you are submitting an abstract as part of a paper, right? What are those keywords? Who is your target audience, right? Who is your talk intended for? Who would gain most from attending? Maybe only students working in health sciences will really gain something from this content, right? And maybe it's in a particular area of health sciences. Learning objectives. What do you want your audience to come away from? What are the 3 big takeaways for them? Now, a lot of us do research in collaboration with colleagues, with peers. So who might you have? Or you might have maybe a supervisor and you've worked on a research topic with your supervisor or another faculty member. They might be added to as a co-speaker. And that can be a really nice way too of building your confidence to co-present. Okay. Once you've done all of that, you can save it as you go, which is nice. Or if it's everything is ready, you can submit it. All right. Now, if we're okay, I'm just going to stop sharing and open up the PowerPoint again so we can just talk about our, we can go back to, there we go.
Yeah, while you're doing that, Emily, I do have another comment that I just wanted to emphasize, which is about the types of papers. So you might have seen like literature reviews scroll by as Emily was showing you, you know, how to examine the call for abstracts or the call for papers. There's even, you know, audio and video media. So you should be aware that this is not only for thesis students or students working on a dissertation. This is also for students doing coursework, including undergrad students who are interested in graduate studies. So you can take your very best coursework and share that, or the coursework that's most close to your heart. You can even submit creative work. Now, if there's anything there you're not sure about, can you submit that? Then, you know, you can email me that question. It's most likely going to be a yes, and then I'll direct you to Emily to get her help creating the abstract for that. But just wanted you to know that it's not only traditional research, but really a variety and diversity of knowledge creation that we're looking for.
Thank you, Sarah Jean. Yes, and you're absolutely correct. I've worked with some students doing very, very innovative research that is absolutely bridging that gap between academia and communities, right? So let's just quickly just review what we considered there, the call for papers. So thinking about the deadlines, right? Are you able to meet the abstract deadline, which in our case here is September 1st? And, you know, also note the deadline to register for the conference, right? You're aware what time the conference is happening, the dates and where it's happening. You have, right, you're very clear on what the theme and some of the sub-themes of the conference are, so that your abstract can maybe speak to some of those. That you have met the word count, that you're within the word count for the abstract. Time limit, will you be able to get your work completed by the time the conference begins, like based on the abstract that you are submitting? All right. So next, yes, and also the types of research can indicate that. What is your presentation format going to be? Is it going to be a paper? Is it going to be a poster, a video? What audience are you appealing to, and the submission guidelines that you're clear in those. And they're given a few times, so you can, you know, you're aware of them as you're creating your abstract. What the selection criteria, so you're clear on that from the site, right? What those organizers are looking for. And then, of course, we want to get to our samples. So let's press on writing your abstract. I may have to fly through this. I was very worried. I went through this yesterday and I was perfectly on time, but when it actually happens in real time, we never have enough time. So I might just
That's okay, Emily. Maybe do you want to even just skip to the samples and going through the samples?
I think that might be good. Yes, because everyone, you know the basic writing process. You draft, first of all, you plan, you draft, you revise, and then there's that final editing and proofreading. Okay, so I think we should be clear on those. I'm so sorry to rush through. Planning, you know all about that, how to analyze the call for papers, and then of course doing your outlining for your abstract, just as you would for a regular paper. And these are some of the patterns of development you can look for. Again, this is going to be in your slideshow. 1 to 2 sentences, so you could set it out with the headers. You could also have it as a paragraph, and perhaps you're following a problem solution format. Okay, style guide requirements. I'm sure you've all had so much fun making sure that you are formatting according to your discipline's style guide. And now let me just, I'm sorry to click through this. Maybe I'll just stop sharing so I can go straight to the thing without making you go crazy looking at all of the, as I click through here. Can't seem to get to my, there we go. There we go. All right, and I'll share again.
I'm also good to stay for a couple extra minutes after the, like to go over the samples if you are, Emily, but that's totally up to you.
Okay, well, we have 3 minutes, my friends. All right, so here's a sample abstract, again from 2017. Preceptorship, the valuable yet challenging role. This is an abstract that is created using the headers. And so it's very clear right from a quick look by an organizer that all of the different things they're looking for, remember that numbered list, everything has been met. The rationale background, the purpose, what type of literature review, the results, the implications. So up here you can see what was the problem, right? Newly graduated nurses, they're supposed to be providing independent care, but how do they feel supported doing that? Where do they build their confidence, feel qualified? This is where supported and structured preceptorship can be helpful. Of course, a second barrier, a second problem, sort of a sub-problem, is that there is sometimes that perception that preceptorship can be difficult, right? It can put an extra burden on existing staff. Maybe they're not sure exactly how to perform the preceptorship, etc. And so what is this literature review doing? It's looking at all of the literature related to preceptorship. It is going to talk about why it is beneficial and the strategies to put it into practice so it's successful for both parties, right? Lovely abstract. It was accepted. I'm going to pop on to the next one. This second abstract by Swettenham is it's using the paragraph structure, and it's talking about open e-literatures or e-lits, a form of open educational resources, freely available to anyone with a computing device, access to the internet. So if you've never heard of this, this is what it is. It allows you to kind of study, engage with research anytime, any place, on any device. Now, this is interesting because this is speaking to a presentation. It's not going to give everything about this person's research. They're going to present a virtual demonstration of this e-publishing incubator, right? And it's important because, look, it allows Canadian faculty to share their knowledge. Students don't have to buy a lot of work. The stuff is available. It's open. It's free. Bridges that digital divide, right? Now, this is going to be quite compelling for the organizers as well as for attendees, right? To see how something actually works in reality, and also there's the context why this is important. And we can see this nice closing line, hosted by the Faculty of Health Disciplines, this particular EPUB FHD e-publishing incubator, an authentic grassroots initiative, and how love, determination, and collaboration can bring e-lit to life for everyone. So we're getting a very clear sense of the significance of this particular demonstration and the research that supports it. And of course, it ties directly into Athabasca's desire to bridge the institution with community and to be innovative in how students learn, as well as to be as inclusive as possible. You will see that the writing in both the abstracts, they're well written, they're structured appropriately. This one you might want to sort of bring the relevance of the research in a little bit earlier. And they do have, I think, one typo. Where is it? They had I can't remember, but if you are writing something like this, you want to use maybe a read aloud tool that you can find on Word, or there's another one, and I'm trying to think of the name of it. But you can read aloud. Sorry, it's read aloud, and it will read it back to you. So you can capture some of those typos that maybe you don't always see after you've been immersed in a piece of writing for a long time. All right, and one thing that I wanted to show you that I forgot to show you on the site itself, and I'm just going to come out of there and pull up the website again. Sorry, jumping around here a little bit. I just wanted to go back to show you. Oops. Of course, the computer's decided not to cooperate. One moment, everyone. There we go. All right. There's an archive here. So again, if you want to read abstracts that were already submitted and successful, they were accepted and the people presented, 2017 conference has a whole list of downloadable files. If you're having any trouble downloading them from here, you can always go to the Wayback Machine and enter in the title of the abstract, the research title, and you should be able to see the work. Right, and I'll just go back to our PowerPoint.
Yes, and I just put some additional sample abstracts in the chat. I did also send it in the email, if hopefully you received that email. But if you didn't, the abstracts are here in the chat. Because I did go through and it was a little bit challenging to find all the ones that are still working just because they are a little bit old. So I've got some for you there, and then I'll be working on for next year having something a bit simpler to navigate so you can see all the excellent samples from the past, maybe your own perhaps from this year.
Yes. Wouldn't that be fabulous? And just so you know, we do have our references to our sources included in the slide deck. And so hopefully, if you want to go ahead and read a little bit more yourselves, you're more than welcome to.